week's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. What appears to be an emerging interest to bring one of the biggest names in boxing and women's boxing over to Saudi. His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh has confirmed that he will have a women's boxing fight on the next October Saudi show, and that Amanda Serrano is among his favorite women boxers. Could Amanda Serrano be a part of this? The answer to that question is contingent upon what happens in Amanda Serrano's next fight with Katie Taylor, set to go down at a contracted weight of 140 pounds. The rematch between them that for a while seemed like it was off the table and wasn't going to happen. Now it is, as part of the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight going down on Netflix very soon. If Amanda's gonna appear in Saudi, I think it all depends on what happens with that show, what happens in that fight with Katie Taylor. I've said it more than once, that it's entirely possible Taylor versus Serrano becomes a trilogy if Amanda Serrano avenges the loss and beats Katie Taylor in the rematch.
There could be a third fight.
A tiebreaker. It has been asked on more than one occasion why we haven't seen any women's bouts in any of the major shows that have been happening in Saudi, and if that would ever change. It appears that it might.
Given that the customs and culture is different in that region of the world, there was some speculation as to whether or not that would be accepted.
The popularity of women in sport, women in boxing here today, is at an all-time high. The sport has more of a profile than it ever did in previous eras that featured fighters like Christy Martin and Holly Holm, Mia St. John, Regina Halmick, and Lucia Riker, so on and so forth, Jane Couch,
and Wolf,
Layla Ali. This era's Valkyries, this era's female fighters are far more popularized and promoted than those fighters were. And now it seems that there could be a big Saudi payday for Amanda Serrano and some other fighter that she could end up fighting. I mean, I can't think of a more deserving person. You must understand that I wasn't always a big fan of Amanda Serrano. There was a time where I was very critical of this fighter, and unbeknownst to most, throughout all of that, Amanda still supported this channel.
Behind the scenes.
Some correspondence between myself and Amanda, who I've had the privilege to speak to on more than one occasion, and how even when I was critical of her, she still lavished praise on this channel for no other reason than at least other women boxers, other fighters were receiving the coverage they weren't getting on some other channels. Because if nothing else, Amanda Serrano has always wanted to elevate the profile of women in boxing.
She's still doing that.
She really won me over with her performance in the Katie Taylor fight. She made a fan out of me that night. And I can't think of one more deserving of these opportunities to make this kind of life-altering money at this stage in her career, because she was around when the money wasn't there, when the big promotional outfits and the networks were not making the investment in the women boxers that they are now making. So it warms my heart to see opportunity after opportunity laid at the feet of Amanda.
A big fight, a very big fight on Netflix, and what could be another big fight in Saudi Arabia.
To know Amanda is to love Amanda, because she doesn't take shots at anybody, not even her contemporaries, not even her rivals.
Even though she can.
She'd be well within her rights to do so, but she still doesn't, because she wants to elevate the profile of the sport overall and doesn't tear anybody down.
Doesn't want to.
From Amanda's perspective, it's hard enough for a woman boxer, in the American boxing scene especially, to make the kind of money that they should be making without them attacking each other outside of the ring. She hopes to put on a show inside of the ring to raise the sport's profile that way, and I think she's done a very good job. If now Saudis want to bring her to that region of the world so that she can put on a show for them.
Oh, she's a great lady.
But as stated, her appearance in Saudi Arabia, I think, would be contingent upon what happens in her next fight with Katie Taylor. That if she does avenge the loss from the first fight, the fight in Saudi could be the trilogy, the tiebreaker.
I wouldn't argue with that.
So before it becomes about going to Saudi, let's see what happens with Katie the second time out. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, as it pertains to the Saudi Arabians' investment in the sport, sources say Terence Crawford is set to fight Israel Madrimov for his version of the WBA title. Terrence Crawford, ESPN's #1 pound-for-pound boxer, will move up to 154 pounds to challenge Israel Madrimov for his WBA 154-pound title August 3rd in Los Angeles, which we talked about. The event will be presented by Riyadh Season under His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, the chair of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, in association with Sella Sport. There will be a news conference Wednesday in New York to announce the bout.
If you've been following the channel, you will have heard me talk about this a little over 2 weeks ago. It's not new news to us.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made a major commitment to boxing since 2019 when it staged the Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz rematch. The Kingdom's interest in boxing grew exponentially when Al-Sheikh entered the fray last year with October's Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou fight in the capital city of Riyadh. Saudi Arabia went on to stage a December card featuring former heavyweight champions Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, then a March fight between Joshua and Ngannou. The Kingdom will present its 2 biggest fights yet over the next 2 months. The Fury versus Usyk Undisputed Heavyweight Championship title fight May 18th, and the Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol Undisputed Light Heavyweight Championship bout June 1st.
These are the right fights that are happening for the right reasons. Unbeaten champions coming together, fighting each other at the pinnacle of their powers and their popularity.
Both fights will take place in Riyadh. Now Saudi Arabian officials are branching out with their first boxing event outside of the kingdom with Terrence Crawford as he looks to become a 4-division champion against Madrimov. The event will be the first in partnership with Crawford, who is from Omaha, Nebraska, and it will be his first fight since his 9th-round TKO victory over Errol Alcohol Spence in July of last year to become the undisputed welterweight champion. Crawford, 36, will be making his junior middleweight debut.
Now for the Catch-22.
TGB Promotions, which is just another way of saying PBC Promotions, the promoter of PBC events, sent a letter to the WBA last Thursday, obtained by ESPN, clarifying that Charlo has no objection to Terrence Crawford meeting Madrimov first. Charlo hereby requests to be reinstated as the WBA Super Champion at junior middleweight. We also want you to know that Jermel has no problem with Israel Madrimov defending his regular title against Terrence Crawford this summer. It was originally thought that Jermel was using his champion in recess status to cut ahead of the line of Terrence Crawford to fight Madrimov straight away, but that's not the case. He wants to circumvent the both of them and be reinstated as super champion.
The danger
is that in previous years, the WBA has seemed to have had a close relationship with the PBC and PBC fighters, a rather unethical relationship depending on who you ask.
That's an understatement.
I remember when Alberto Machado beat Jezreel Corrales for the WBA title, and he knocked him out. He became WBA champion at 130 pounds, so that 9 months later, they could manufacture a super title for Gervonta Davis out of thin air, even though Alberto was already champion. They essentially demoted him to a secondary champion, even though he became a champion before Gervonta.
They gave Gervonta a super title and demoted Alberto to a regular champion with a regular title.
The regular title by the WBA is a secondary belt. The WBA hasn't made a ruling yet. Charlo is looking to return later this fall with Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora, and Errol Spence as possibilities. Charlo hasn't competed at 154 pounds since May of 2022, 2 years ago, when he defeated Brian Castano in their rematch. Charlo last fought in September of last year, but that was at super middleweight, a wide points loss to Canelo Alvarez for the undisputed super middleweight championship.
And now he wants to drop all the way back down to 154.
And he wants to be WBA super champion. We have to see what the WBA is going to do with that. Further insights as far as the WBO, the World Boxing Organization, they are going to sanction Terrence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov as an interim title fight. WBO interim champion. The winner of this match becomes the mandatory challenger to Sebastian Sebastian Fundora whenever he comes back.
The WBO announced Monday it will sanction Terrence Crawford's planned August 3rd bout against Israel Madrimov as an interim title fight, heightening the possibility that the winner will ultimately own 254-pound titles after the combatants meet in LA.
Uzbekistan's Madrimov already stands as the WBA junior middleweight champion by virtue of his fifth-round TKO of Magomed Kurbanov on March 8th in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Like that bout, the Los Angeles card pegged for the historic Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum will occur under the leadership of Saudi Arabia's chairman of the General Entertainment Authority, Mr. Turki Al-Sheikh.
What does this mean?
That's Sebastian Fundora. Whenever he comes back, in the fall, in the winter, he's gonna have a mandatory to satisfy in the winner of this fight, whether it's Terrence Crawford or Israel Madrimov. So irrespective of the time off, he's still on the hook.
And I still favor Crawford to win that fight.
Headlined by Terrence Crawford, the unbeaten three-division champion and top pound-for-pound fighter in the world in some analysts' rankings, this event will be Al-Sheikh's U.S. debut and is expected to feature another deep undercard with reports that Southern California's former world heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz will be on the bill. Al-Sheikh is poised to host two substantial cards in Saudi Arabia on May 18th,
Fury versus Usyk,
and June 1st.
Better Beef versus Bivol.
The card featuring Terrence Crawford would have Matchroom at the helm of promotion because Israel Madrimov is their fighter, their champion, whereas Terrence...
That doesn't make him a Matchroom fighter, but the fight itself could be aired on DAZN. If Matchroom is at the helm of promotion,
it's likely that will be the platform that broadcasts the fight. Adding the WBO interim strap to the prize list for the August 3rd main event winner is a result of current WBO junior middleweight champion Sebastian Fundora suffering a broken nose in his March 30th split decision win over then-champion Tim Kazoo in Las Vegas. Fundora was medically suspended until late September by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and the fighter's promoter Samson Lukowicz has said Fundora, who also wears the WBC crown, may not even fight again until December. Whenever he gets back, he will have a mandatory to satisfy. If all of this has been a ploy from Samson and Sebastian's team to buy him time and get him out of the Crawford fight, he's not off the hook.
he's not out of the woods.
With a Wednesday announcement scheduled in New York to formally publicize his bout with Madrimov, Crawford may ultimately find that the full WBO title will be his too by defeating Madrimov. Should Fundora opt out to fight someone other than Crawford next, he could either relinquish the belt, or the WBO board is empowered to ultimately strip him of the strap for not following in his mandates. He might not.
Remember, Samson started talking about how they're gonna honor the rematch with Tim Tszyu.
If you're fighting Tim Tszyu, you're not fighting Terrence Crawford. And that might cost you the brown belt, though you will still have the green one. That's saying that irrespective of what the WBA's ruling might turn out to be, are they going to reinstate Jermell as champion? Are they not going to do that? Irrespective of any of that, the winner of Crawford versus Madrimov is going to be a full champion, one way or another. It's only a matter of time.
Because I don't think Sebastian's gonna fight the winner of this fight.
I don't think Samson wants him to. He's never wanted that fight with Crawford. Yeah, he entertained a fight with Spence. Now he's entertaining a rematch with Tim, but he never entertained a Crawford fight.
So the likelihood of Sebastian satisfying the winner of this fight as his mandatory is not likely at all, which means it'll cost him the brown belt.
In keeping with that story, in reference to that event, that card, Andy Ruiz has indicated that he will return to the ring on the Terrence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov card on August 3rd in LA, which is expected to be announced on Wednesday.
I remember they flew Andy out for one of the Saudi cards last year. I can't remember which one, but they flew him out.
And I remember not that long ago, his former trainer, Manny Robles, was asking, where is Andy Ruiz? He hasn't spoken to him in a while. And why is he not among the former heavyweight champions that have been boxing in Saudi? Why is he not being afforded such an opportunity? It turns out that he is. It's just not going to be in Saudi. It's going to be in LA. And that's all right. We haven't seen Andy Ruiz since his points decision win over Luis Ortiz in September of 2022. That's saying the night of, in August this summer. It will have been 1 month shy of 2 years since Andy Ruiz last saw action. That being said, I don't expect his opponent, whoever it is, to be a dicey opponent, a dicey situation, ambitious matchmaking. Not for Andy. Not under these circumstances, not after close to 2 years of inactivity. God only knows what he's been doing, but there is a place for him in today's heavyweight landscape. There is. He is a familiar face, he is a formidable fighter, and he is a former champion. If you ask me to watch an Andy Ruiz versus Joe Joyce or Daniel Dubois fight, if you asked me...
If you told me that Andy Ruiz is fighting Jarrell Miller, I'd watch it.
If you told me that Andy Ruiz is about to fight Dillian White, I'd watch it. Though before it comes to that, and those fighters, that caliber, Andy needs a tune-up fight. He does.
Yeah.
He hasn't fought in a while.
I don't know for sure that his next fight is going to be a tune-up fight, though under these circumstances, I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because that's what fighters usually do in this situation.
It's the industry standard. You don't get off of the couch after 2 years of inactivity to share the ring with a killer. That's just not the way things are done. And I don't expect Andy to do that in August. I expect that he's going to be on the undercard. It might be a tune-up kind of guy, a keep busy kind of opponent to shake off the cobwebs en route to what could be a bigger fight.
We'll see.
But I'm not against it because I reiterate, there is a place in today's heavyweight landscape for Andy Ruiz, who's been in there with Joseph Parker, Anthony Joshua 2 times. He's been in there with Luis Ortiz, and he is a good fighter. I know he's got some work ethic issues, a ticker problem.
But if he can pull himself together to fight on this August show, it could make for some big fights, big opportunities down the line. I wouldn't mind seeing Andy Ruiz test Jared Anderson's mettle, Richard Torres's mettle, these American-based heavyweights.
Andy Ruiz versus Jermaine Franklin. I could go for that. I like the idea of such a fight. Andy Ruiz is capable enough that him versus the right guy makes for the right fight.
So that he's coming back is good news. That the Saudis have found use for him in Los Angeles.
It all adds to the event, to the spectacle. The main event, of course, is Terrence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov, but this is a welcome addition, and it's just one. We don't even know who Andy's going to be fighting yet, or who else is going to be on the undercard, but so far, so good.
I like it.
There's no need to overanalyze it, or be overly critical of who Andy may end up fighting, given that he's been away for a long time, and the guy needs a tune-up fight. To set him up for something bigger, the Saudis' contribution to the sport, His Excellency Mr. Turki Al-Sheikh, is making a lot of dreams come true for a boxing fan.
There's nothing to complain about.
You're telling me Fat Andy's coming back? That's good news, because I like that fucking guy.
He's fat!